Hello, everybody. I hope everybody is keeping nice and safe out there. Um, Once again, if you have any problems or any issues with getting online or anything like that, don't be afraid to drop me a line and I'll work something out with you. I know these are crazy times out there. And we just saw the finished fossil fuels, non renewable energies. And I saw this on coming through my internet feed, news feed, where a nuclear plant was deciding, thinking about a new policy whether or not to sequester its employees to live on site during this pandemic that's happening around globally. And that kind of makes sense to me. To be what's called in the Navy, to be what's called a nuclear technician, you need to go to school for like 6 years. Right? This ain't no rigmarole job. You have to know some important stuff. You have to know your math and some other important things. And what would happen if no one could show up and they all got sick? That's something we need to think about. Sequestering these people that work on these kind of plants and other critical infrastructures that we have around the United States and around the world. Just another interesting policy decision that I thought I'd bring up with you. But what also I see flying around the internet, and I keep levels on this all the time because it's what I like to watch. But um, because of the COVID-19 response, CO2 emissions and other pollution has um, decreased dramatically. And some of the satellite images you can see from just this is where China was in the initial outbreak in the Wuhan, I believe the Wuhan area. And you can see how the pollution levels were on 25th of February. All right. And then you see on 2019. All right. So you see how bad it was pre times. And then you look at February 10th, January 1st, 28th, and then the 10th. Look at that. Wow, that's amazing. All right, a year difference. Okay, um, that's just the CO2 right there. But they also have, you can see some other videos of cleaner water, like in Venice. All right, they could start seeing the fish down there because the boats aren't kicking up all the muck down there in the bottom. Okay, so keep an eye out for these little videos. And a lot of investment people like to look at this pollution videos, and they're saying once we see these satellite images showing this stuff again, that when we know we can really trust that China is getting back to work, right? Or around the world is getting back to work, and it's going to be okay. This is what be called a leading indicator in the market area, watching pollution levels around the world. A lagging indicator is the stock market because they don't see this stuff, right? This shows that people are getting back to work, and then the stock market realizes that they are getting back to work and starts putting that into their investment decisions. All right, pretty interesting. Um, but what I like to see is hopefully that we don't go back to the levels of fossil fuels that we used to have. All right, that this little pandemic thing is gonna at least decrease our CO2 emissions over the long term. Maybe we don't wrap them up as much as possible, as much as we were before. And there is individuals that say that we can do this. Okay, we saw that one video of from John Stewart about how every president is telling us we got to be energy independent and all this stuff. And that is possible if we use renewable energies, folks. And we definitely can do that. We just need to make the investment into those policy decisions and switch our energy over from fossil fuels to our renewable. And having said that, we'll never get rid of all of our fossil fuels. We still need them. They are very important. They're very unique and beneficial resource. We just need to use them a little bit more wisely. All right, they'll never go away. We talked about peak oil. There will always be oil here. Peak oil is just the maximum production point. That's it. Okay, and it goes into terminal decline. This website here, the Solutions Project.org, is one of my favorites because they did that. They went around the world, right, and mapped it and looked at the world's biomes. by the different countries, the cities, and the states. Excuse me. They looked at the United States and said, "Hey, look how much wind do they have here, and how much solar, sun do they get here? Do they have any dams to be built or anything like that?" All right, and came up with a little rubric of what each country can do. So if we wanted our country, the United States of America, to go energy independent, they looked at it and said we would need to put about 10% of our solar panels right on our rooftops. That will give us that much. And then we could do big solar plants. That would be like a big array that you see out in the middle of the desert. That would be 16%. All right. Concentrating solar plants is a little bit different than the solar arrays. Photovoltaic, we'll learn about that in this section. 4%. Okay. Wind turbines. On shore wind would be 31, and offshore would be 16. Um, Commercial and government rooftops. Okay, so we separate the residential and the commercial and stuff. That's 14%. Okay, and all these other ones. And hydroelectric at 3.9%, and wave device at 1. So we can do it. All right. And what I like about this, they also include the 40-year jobs created. Right, so they say 1.3 million jobs would be created just to build this infrastructure. Okay, and then operational jobs would be 1.4 million, and that's long-term jobs. So when we say we're getting rid of coal and the fossil fuels and oil, we have jobs to replace those jobs, those coal mining jobs. All right, so there is opportunity. There is jobs. Okay. Also in this mix here. They're reducing our energy demand. So they talk about us how we reduce it, or how we become more efficient into our vehicles and things like that. And they add that in there. All right. They also add the health savings, okay, from not putting all those pollutants into the air, seeing those big, huge satellite images of no pollution versus pollution, okay, and the health cost. Land usage. It will take about 0.1% of our footprint of our arable of our terrestrial lands, okay, or even in the seas, all right, our land mass of the United States to create this. It would take about 0.7, 3/4 of the land mass total, though, because we're going to have different spacing, so it's going to be a little bit bigger than typical, all right? But the average citizen would save about $600 a month per cost savings per person, all right, back into your pocket. I think it's a month or it's a year. I think it's a year. And then for energy, health savings, and everything added up, all right, it would be almost $9,600. Pretty darn good. All right, even our electricity per kilowatt would actually go down via the United States. Now, it's important to note that this is also the program that the guys talk about in the podcast, the Mark Jacobson that he talks about. Here you see that they're talking about electricity a lot, all right? And to run the locomotion, they're talking about that hydrogen power that it brings up, so, they bring up in the podcast. And that is one of my pet peeves as well, is that I love the hydrogen economy. Don't get me wrong. We'll talk about that a little bit more in this section. But it's just way too expensive and it's not there yet. The best way I believe we should go would be biofuels via algae. All right. So having said that, I still like their plan. In each state, they've broken it down for each state. So you see here, Pennsylvania, we would have 3% solar rooftops, and then our corporations and stuff like that, commercial 2.4. All right. Solar plants themselves, 6.68%. All right. Onshore wind, 20%. Okay. Jobs created, and this is just in Pennsylvania, 279,000 jobs. Okay. That's pretty darn good. Sustainable jobs, 107,000. I like that. All right. We got to get a little bit more efficient. Health savings. Okay. Total savings per year as a resident, 341, and 12,000. And when you add in everything, healthcare costs and all that other stuff. So I really like this plan. All right. And it can be done. Take away the hydrogen thing, I think the electrical generation definitely in this plane is doable and is feasible right now today. And we'll talk about that, the electrical generation, a little bit more in this renewable energy section. And we'll divide out the oil um, locomotion. But what I also like about this plan is that they have all the data. So if you want to go find the data, you do a little internet search and you go to the Stanford. This was done by Stanford University. All right, so you go to the Stanford .ed website, and if you put in Jacobson's number or name in their search engine, you'll find a link to all the data that they have behind these numbers. So they're not afraid put this out there, right? They're taking the 6 step to the scientific method seriously. Here's our data. Please look at it. Decide what you think, all right? And you can pick it out by each country, right? I mean, they put it all out there, and that's what I love about this program. All right, that's why the guys on the podcast were able to criticize it, or not criticize it, but look at it critically and say, hey, that hydrogen's not really there yet. Okay, so don't be afraid to put your science out there because that's what science is all about, right? And don't be afraid to say yes that renewable energy is going to work. Okay, that is just there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. We know how to do it. So let's, without further ado, start getting into the renewable energy section. So we're going to talk about in this section a couple of different things. All right, we're going to talk about first, of course, the why we want to seek renewable energies. Okay, alternative fuels. Talk about those major sources. And then we'll break it down into those major sources: the solar, the wind, the geothermal, ocean, hydroelectric power, bioenergy, and then finally the hydrogen economy. As what they were talking about in that podcast and what I was just talking about in my little solutions project. Okay. So the case study for this chapter is Germany, and it says Germany goes solar, and boy, I love this program. All right. Germany produces more than 6% of its electricity via solar power. All right. One of the highest rates in the world. Okay? And believe it or not, Germany has worse sun than we have here in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Take the 38-day average, their what's called irradiance level here in Pittsburgh is greater. We get more sun than they do in Germany. Okay, and what they do is they have what's called a feed-in tariff system. So everybody's tied into the grid. Right? Utilities have to buy back the electricity that you produce that's extra. All right. And this has led to homeowners and businesses installing their solar panels all over Germany. And it was a great, great program. Right. It really, really worked. All right. So back after in 2000, they assigned a payment rate according to the market considerations for every renewable energy source. And Germany gradually lowered its tariffs until the goal of about 5 gigawatts of capacity was reached. And since 1990, the carbon dioxide emission of Germany energy has decreased by 25%. Okay, and that doesn't include all the other good stuff, getting rid of the SO2 and NOx and CO and all the other volatile organic compounds that are in there. They've all been decreased anywhere from 12 to 95%. And how they did this, they offered the homeowners low interest loans for these solar panels. And the homeowners would say, okay, or commercial businesses would say, okay, we're going to buy these things, put them on our roofs, and the extra electricity that they produced paid for, they figured it out, the market rates and all that stuff, paid for that loan. So they weren't, losing any money. They were just kind of renting out their things and getting rid of their electrical bills free. Okay. And it was all supposed to break even. This was so successful that they had to stop the program. They stopped it actually. It was supposed to go for 10 years, but I only went for 8 because they just kind of ran out of money. Everybody was doing it. And sometimes in Germany, like twice a year, it'll be so sunny out there that they'll actually have negative electrical rates. It might be making too much electricity and no one's consuming it. It's amazing. All right. But you can see it just followed a normal S curve, just like any diffusion. All right. And this would have gone up if they would have kept on doing it. Okay. So Germany's transition has not been completely smooth. All right, there has been some troubles trying to do what's called the duck curve, trying to smooth out that electricity because we want electricity constant. It's easy to keep that fire going, to keep that coal plant going, but it's a little bit harder to keep the sun shining. All right, that doesn't happen all the time. Okay, so there's some problems that they've been trying to phase in and phase out, but they're looking pretty good. All right. Germany's system of tariffs and government subsidies of the renewable energy technology has served as a model. All right. It was we should not be afraid to look at other countries and see what they have done to see if maybe we should adopt some of those things. And it really has worked good. And that's kind of what we did. We'll learn about my solar panels later that I have on a farm. And that's kind of what we did here in Pennsylvania, the same kind of system that Germany did, but we kind of structured it a little bit differently. All right, but we incentivized the homeowners to buy those solar panels. Okay, so conventional alternatives to fossil fuels, such as hydropower, which is dams, biomass, which is all your plant matter, and are renewable, but they can be depleted with overuse, and they exert some undesirable environmental impact. So we need to remember that renewable energies are not immune to the laws of thermodynamics. All right, there are always going to be some losses of entropy as we produce them and some pollution that's going to get out. We've got to do the calculation. All right, we've got to calculate the whole throughput of those investments. Okay. Because there's no doubt that the sun, the wind, and geothermal heat and ocean water are renewable because they can be they're just not being used on a wide scale. All right, the sun's always going to come up, the wind's always going to blow, and the internal heat of the Earth is going to be moving around at all times. All right, and they are going to play a much larger role in the future. There's no ands, ifs, or buts about it. If we want to survive as a species here on this planet, we're going to have to do something, right? At least make it a little bit better. Okay. So although the current makeup of, although renewable energies currently make up a small portion of our energy budget, right? The new renewable resources are quickly growing, right? And when I say quickly growing, we got to take that as with a little grain of salt. Right, because if you're only 2% of the energy use of our mix, and all of a sudden you go up to 4%, you just double, but you're still only a measly 4%. All right. So when we look at that, we see that about 80% of all of our energy use is fossil fuels, and only about 10% of this is renewable. All right, and we see here we're able to distinguish the nuclear power. All right, this is the United States, okay, not the world, but the United States. And you see here in the renewables, we have 24% is being used via hydropower, so dams, okay, and bioenergy is 45%. And this is driven basically by the corn ethanol industry that we put into our automobiles. So when you go up to get gas, look at the gas tank next time, and it'll say, here you go, here's 10% ethanol on it. And that is part of this biofuel, and that's why we have such a large source of this. Okay, but you see the solar and wind and geothermal things that really are, you would think we would have more advantage of. It's just a small little portion. Our wind's 20% is pretty big. All right, and this is the biggest growing one, and then solar and geothermal, very small still. Okay, all things considered in the whole mix of things. Okay, and when it comes to electricity, the mix is just about the same. All right. But you'll see here some are a little bit longer, small, because nuclear, all we do is electricity for that. Okay, so it grows a little bit. All right. And fossil fuels, we have some of the oil that's taken out of this little area and coal's put in. And renewable energy increases a little bit. Okay. The use of new renewables provides many benefits. All right. First of all, of course, we get rid of the air pollution and greenhouse gas reductions. Okay. But most importantly, that people don't understand is the diversification of our economy's energy mix. That is very important. You know, diversification equals resilience, and then resilience equals sustainability. And we can't be, reliant on one single fuel to drive our cars, but we do. All right, and we almost use one single thing for electricity, and that was coal. All right, but we can see here that here is the life cycle of the greenhouse gas emissions uh, for CO2 equivalent per kilowatt hour of done. So this looks in the the front end of mining this stuff, putting it together, and then releasing that into the atmosphere. And you can see that the CO2 here, nuclear power is very low, right? But natural gas and oil, when we're burning that stuff, we have a high CO2 level, and here we have very low. Okay, and that's what we want to try to do. And this diversity makes us more resilient. Shifting to renewable energies creates new employment opportunities, jobs, jobs, jobs. Okay, so whether you want to design a new grid or um, work on your industry for installation, all right, maintenance, all right, or just trying to change your corporate structure or how you do something in a manufacturing plant or something like that to adopt these new technologies. And these are called green collar jobs. All right. Although the prices have fallen for most renewable energies, they still remain expensive um, than fossil fuel energy. So you can see here on this graph, here's a dollars levelized cost of electricity, dollars per megawatt hour, right? And here you have the dollars for coal, all right, and the dollars for the renewable energies for the different sources. So wind power is definitely cheaper nowadays with the natural gas. All right, definitely cheaper than coal and definitely cheaper than nuclear power. So that's one of the reasons why wind is starting to win this race. And this is without, folks, without a carbon tax. Okay. So and with heavy, heavy subsidies, which we'll talk about here in a little bit, in fossil fuels. So these prices are manipulated. Okay, we're going to learn why that. Not, I shouldn't say manipulated. That they're low due to us wanting them to be low. Okay, so we subsidize these costs. Okay, so policies that support renewable energy may include different kinds of things: feed-in tariffs, goals that mandate feed-in tariffs like Germany, goals that mandate and set the governments that a minimum percentage of power comes from renewable energies. And that's what we do here in Pennsylvania. So we got to make sure, we've got to remember it's the states that control this kind of stuff. They're in charge of the utilities of their states. And what Pennsylvania says is that Duquesne Light and West Penn Power and all those big companies have to have a certain percentage of their electricity produced by renewable energies, whether it comes from solar panels or wind turbines, it doesn't matter. Okay, and we'll talk about how we structure that a little bit later in this class, or how they pay that or do that. Governments invest in research and development, so keep on putting money in there to our colleges and universities and corporations come up with new technologies to increase our efficiency as well as new ways to get the energy. Lending programs as well. One of the best things Obama did, you'll hear about Solyndra, right? How Obama gave this money, some guaranteed loans, and this company went out of business. But if you looked at that whole loan package during the stimulus program, all in all, we the taxpayers lent these companies, or we didn't lent these companies money, and they paid us back interest. And we made some money on that deal, which I don't mind whatsoever. All right, so and they were mostly winners. So on that whole loan package, we made up. All right. So there might be a few that go bust, but the more make it, I believe. Okay, because we're smart. We got to figure out who's who. Okay. We also do what's called tax credits and rebates to individuals and businesses. So this is very popular here in the United States. When I bought my Priuses, I was able to take some of that cost. I got a tax credit on my taxes, so whatever I paid, if I paid $1,000 in taxes, I got that $1,000 back, as long as it wasn't over 7.5% or $7,500, something like that. All right, so I paid $7,500 in taxes. I got all $7,500 of that back that year, and I was over. All right, but if I paid $10,000, I still had to pay $3,000 in taxes, or $2,500 in taxes. Is my math right? Okay, but we do these tax credits all the time too here, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But policies and investments definitely can accelerate our transition. In many cases, governments have subsidized fossil fuels and nuclear power far more than they have been subsidizing the renewable energy section. All right, and this has created a totally uneven playing field, and the numbers are just clear, folks. All right, so you can see here, this is in this little pie chart, we have total subsidies. And this is different ways, there are tax credits or grants or loans or something like that. Okay, these are all kinds of subsidies. Oil and gas, you got $446 billion from 1918 to 2009, and from 1994 to 2009, renewables have gotten $5 billion so far. Okay, biofuels. Okay, from 1980, when we started trying to get off this foreign oil thing and started growing corn and stuff like that to run our cars, has gotten $32 billion. All right, and nuclear has gotten $185 billion since 1947. So we've been subsidizing oil and gas for a long time, and we need to just cut it out. I think they're pretty darn profitable already. All right, and we need to put all this money that we did before back into renewables and get this number way up. All right, and this we need to just sustain. Okay, in my humble opinion. But here you can see the per year subsidies. All right, so the average per year here for oil and gas is $4.86 billion per year. All right, nuclear is getting $3.5 billion. Biofuels is getting $1 billion, but non-renewable energies is getting $37 million. Unbelievable. Or $370 million. So if you want your taxpayers' money to go to fossil fuels, keep on voting the way you're voting, or you can go look for politicians that will try to switch this and have this subsidy go from this side over to here and this side over to here. All right, I don't even know if I want these subsidies, but true cost, right? We talked about the price structure of this stuff already, and I'm sure that I don't know if the cost of oil is going to go up or not. Right now, the price is down in the teens, so it's flirting with $20 a barrel right now, which is, I think we've been talking about this as we started this class. It was at like $56 a barrel, I think was about the average, and now it's all the way down to $20. It's trading right now at $20.66 or something like that. It's crazy. All right, so we need to flip something over. All right, and I think we can do that. Solution project is definitely one of my favorite ways to think about it. Okay, the next sections we're going to go over is the different types of energies. Okay, we're going to take them one at a time here, maybe two at a time. So please check back for the next chapter of renewable energies. And until then, stay safe. And if you have any problems or questions or concerns or what have you, please don't be afraid to reach out to me. And don't forget, your paper is due April this Friday, right? At the end Friday by 5 o'clock. Okay, so if you guys have any troubles with your paper or anything like that, also drop me a line about that too. All right, I'll be glad to help you out. All right, so peace be with everybody and stay safe.